Building a loading stand for the Super Walker. William Hovey Smith, 2014. Although not a gun, this is certainly a very useful accessory. This is Hovey Smith, the Backyard Sportsman. And those of you who have been following my adventures with the Colt Super Walker realize that we have had difficulty loading some elongate bullets in the Walker's huge cylinder. And I also mentioned that I would probably be building a loading stand for this cylinder, and that's exactly what we're about to be doing. Now, this is a typical loading stand for a small revolver, and by small I mean the ordinary size Army and Navy revolvers, which are big but not in comparison to the Walker. I mean, this little thing is puny and day for the Walker revolver. And it even doesn't work very well for the regular revolvers. As you see, this handle is very badly bent. And as usual, we are going to use what we got to build what we need. Yeah. So I had these components around the house, and this is exactly what we're going to employ. Now we have the piece of 2x4. And we also have this piece of plank, which actually was cut out of the threshold of my door. And so we're going to utilize this. Why? Well, because I got it. That's why. So I'm going to move the camera up and let you see the steps in the process. The first thing I'm doing here is I have used 2 nails to fix my vise and its base to this workbench. And I am working on this 2x4. Take this end off as a preliminary step. Okay, there we go. So now we have a nice more or less square end. One thing about 2x4s is that they're often not exactly flat on the top or bottom. So we'll want to use the flattest portion as the base, and that's this side here. And then all our work will be on this upper side. So when we get it finished, it'll take a relatively little sanding to smooth this absolutely plainer. We have trimmed our stick here so that our spindle slides on it fairly good. But I'm going to go ahead and, just for insurance sake, use some of this crazy glue and give it another kind of bond. So this will tend to reinforce the whole mechanism here. Okay. All right, and that's on tight. Trim. Okay. Now this is going to set aside and harden and set whilst we do the rest on our 2x4. Now people sometimes forget how useful a pocket knife is. Yeah, I mean, you can move some wood with these things. So okay, we're going to do this and clean up this edge of this board so it is more nearly flat rather than being at a serious bevel like it was. Yeah, if I had a good rig and a table saw, yeah, you could put it on a table saw and absolutely have a fresh cut, but don't have those. So again, we use what we got. That's getting much better. What you're really after here are some edges that are flat, but you're going to put these in your 2x4 and glue these fits. So you want these to be as supportive as they can get. For aesthetic reasons, You might want to smooth things up and make your arms absolutely identical and equal looking and all this kind of good stuff. Structurally, it makes no difference. We're now going to actually inlet these supporting arms into this piece of 2x4. So I'm coming in an inch from this side to leave plenty of supporting wood. And so the height of these members will be about here. So you'll have the cylinder there and enough movement up and down to operate the plunger. Now we'll mark it for the cut on the other side. We do exactly the same thing on this side. Now, one thing we've done since these two pieces of wood are unique, we've marked like this one right bottom and the other left bottom to just make sure we put the right ones in the right place. Okay, so now we're going to see if we can extract these pieces of wood we've cut with a chisel, and hopefully we'll be able to take them out pretty easily. Well, we'll have to do a little dressing, but yeah, that's doing just like it should do. And we'll do the other one exactly the same way. Now is where your wood rasp come in. But you want to face these off so they'll be reasonably flat. Okay, that's getting much smoother looking. Okay. Yeah, that should bond good. Okay. And as usual, we do the same to the other side. We now have our two vertical arms attached and just temporarily screwed in. So these are stable now. And we're going to work on our arm that will actually pivot here to load the cylinder. I'll cut this knot out, which is a weak point, and then we'll drill a hole here to accommodate the axle that allow the arm to go up and down. We're getting closer as what the finished object will actually be. This is, of course, the arm that will go this direction. This is what will actually load the chamber, although we'll put a piece of metal on it. And this is the pivot pin that will operate the arm, the two spacers, and connect it to the vertical arms here, which is of course attached to the base. Now we have the screws actually attached in the stand, and you can see here at the bottom and also at the top. And this arm now will move. So what we have to do yet is of course attach the base for the cylinder, as well as the arm here and the plunger that'll go into the chambers themselves. But When we get all of that up, then we'll do the final gluing and finishing and stuff. But while we're still worrying about the basic positions of the parts, yeah, things are just put together temporarily now. I've now rough shaped my lever arm that'll actually hold the plunger, and I want to drill a 1/4 inch hole as carefully as I can right straight through the middle of this. Okay. Pine is not particularly strong, so I'm going to leave some wood top of this hole to keep it from splitting out. So drill the hole right about there. It'll actually hold the plunger itself. Okay. I want to leave more wood up top to give it added support, because that's where all the pressure is going to be. Is going to be in this part of this member. Okay. So now we're ready to put the metal inside here that'll actually go inside the chambers and seat the balls, as well as index the hole for this. We're now at the stage of indexing where the cylinder spindle hole will be. Now I have the plunger here, and as you see, it's movable, and I'm putting it directly down the middle of a chamber. All right, and then we're going to mark the middle of the cylinder with this long nail here. Okay, right there. Give it a tap. Okay. And that gives us a hole. So now we can proceed to drill a hole and put in our pin, which has been sitting around in the epoxy for most of the day. Well, we now have our pin hole drilled, and it's close. I'm going to have to wallow it out a little bit, and then I'll feed this rod up through the bottom. But I think we did a reasonable job of it. Well, now we are getting along seriously now. We've got our cylinder pin in the hole, and let's see how it really does before I glue everything up finally. Okay, that fits well, turns good. All right, that works fine. Okay, now we can get over a chamber here. Okay. Yes. Yes. All right, guys. Now that's one of the worst looking cobbled together stuff I've ever seen. But you know what? It works. So we're going to tighten this thing up and put some epoxy on it. We are going to get this thing in use, like maybe even tomorrow. At the present stage, we have glued the assembly together. And right now I'm doing some rough sanding. I have my hand sander now mounted in a vise so that we can use it to work on some of these planar surfaces. So we're going to continue like this until we get the pieces down so we can put a good coat of finish on them. Well, the sanding stage is completed now, and we're going to put on our coatings of wood finish. I'll probably put on about 2 or 3. but this will sort of stain everything up, and more importantly, give us a seal, because I'll actually take this thing into the woods with me, in the sense I'll take it to hunt camp, and there it'll be exposed to moisture. So I want to get it as sealed as possible, because of course wood will swell, and that is one adverse effect of using wooden implements. They do swell. So we're going to try to seal them up as best we can here. Voila. Yep. Okay, that's it for a while. We are far enough along with our loading stand for the Colt Walker here. Yeah, well, that we can call it done. And I'll actually go out and use it to load with in a few days. Now, the delicate member of this whole assembly is, of course, this arm here. If any piece of wood splits, this will be it. But no big deal. You just remove this one nut and bolt, and you replace it with another one. Yeah, no problem. And for now, this is Hovey Smith, reminding you to hunt what you eat and eat what you hunt. Be legal, be ethical, be safe, goodbye, God bless, and see you next time. Among my prize-winning books are Extreme Muzzleloading, Backyard Deer Hunting, Crossbow Hunting, and Practical Bow Fishing, and all of these are available as softcover and e-books. I also have an 8-book e-book series out for 2013-14, including a forthcoming one, Hunting with Muzzleloading Revolvers. Now, when you're building anything new, it's often best to make the first one out of scrap materials that don't cost you anything, and then once you find out it works, then you can go ahead and make others using premium materials and take your time with finishing it up. For info on my books, blogs, and videos, go to my website, www.hoveysmith.com. Good hunting and good eating from the outdoors. Goodbye and God bless.